Welcome to the Link podcast. Today we'll be discussing the Special Services Division of Electra Link, which is made up of 3 different parts: security, design and build, and DAS. Our guest for today is Sam McDaniel, Electra Link's contracted DAS sales expert, who will be sharing his knowledge on all things DAS related. Before we dive into DAS, let's briefly touch upon what Electra Link provides for design and build services as well as security. So for the design and build portion of Electra Link has acted in a design-build capacity for jobs as small as a sales office to technology companies with high-density, complex applications in conferencing and training spaces. Our team has experience in the design and build of multiple multi-story complexes for network infrastructure and audiovisual. We currently have 9 RCDDs on staff and 3 AV designers to assist with any size project, as well as many consulting partners that we work with closely within the industry. So if your project does not have a network infrastructure or AV consultant, no worries, Electra Link is here to assist in getting your project to completion. For the security portion of Electra Link has years of experience in assisting customers through the ever-growing physical security market. We employ a full-time security manager to assist with client consultation, ensuring regulatory compliance. We specialize in assisting customers and security integration partners with the security infrastructure installation and security endpoints, including camera and card read installs. Although we do not install the head-end or programming of the systems themselves, we have multiple partners statewide that we engage with in providing full-service security solutions for all of our clients who want it. Let's get into the DAS part of today's episode. Welcome to the Link podcast, Sam, and thank you so much for being here to talk about DAS. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
This will be fun.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get started. Tell me a little bit about your background before coming to Electra Link. You can kind of go as far back as you want to.
Well, actually, I started when the cellular started in 1985. And, in Houston, Texas, GTE MobileNet, which is no longer around. GTE was eventually absorbed and became part of Verizon.
Okay.
And it was a carrier. In those days, there was 2.
Mm-hmm.
There was an RBOC, which was a telephone company, and then a non-telephone company. GT MobileNet was a telephone company, very innovative company, and they launched cellular. Following GT MobileNet, I moved to Dallas and joined a company that MetroCell Cellular, and it became Southwest Bell and AT&T. Mm-hmm. It was owned by Craig McCaw, and so it became part of AT&T. And then I left when AT&T was getting too big, and I joined at the beginning of the digital auctions, and Primeco became Verizon. So I've worked for the carriers, and then following that, I left the carriers and I went to OEM. I went to a manufacturer that manufactures the BDAs that is used in cellular, and that was Mobile Access, which actually became Corning.
Okay.
Corning bought Mobile Access, and Corning is still in that business today.
Yeah.
And then I've worked for some integrators such as Electra Link.
Nice. Yeah. Before
actually working with Electra Link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So kind of going back before you started getting into the industry, have you been in Texas your whole life? Kind of did you start in Texas?
I'm a native Texan.
Okay, a native Texan.
I'm a native to Houston and went from Houston to Dallas.
Okay.
And I'm in the San Antonio area now.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And then did you always know you wanted to kind of get into this industry, like the cellular connections?
It's been exciting.
It's been exciting?
Yeah. I was originally, I'm an Aggie from A&M, and I'm a civil engineer. Into the oil industry in Texas, and the oil kind of in those days it didn't do too good. The industry cratered, and cellular was just starting out, and it was pretty exciting, and it's still exciting.
Yeah.
It changes constantly, and it's obviously nowadays people can't live without it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
We just saw an example of that a few weeks ago when AT&T was down.
Oh boy, people panicked.
Just for a few hours.
I know it. People panicked.
Yeah,
I know it.
It's crazy. You didn't necessarily go to college for this, but you saw the opportunity and jumped into it.
Yes.
That's
Yes, and
awesome.
so I have worked for every phase of the industry, from the carriers to the manufacturers to
Yeah.
now the people that actually put in the systems,
Okay, so you know your
like
stuff.
Electra Link. Yes.
You know your stuff. So when you kind of mentioned before that you had worked with Electrolink, not on the Electrolink team, but just kind of with us as like partner. When did you first hear about Electrolink, and kind of how long have you been in the role that you are today?
So I've been working with Electrolink. I've been with other integrators
Okay.
and friends of mine within Electrolink from time to time would have customers that want cellular.
Yeah.
And Electrolink was uh, kind of doing cellular, but not officially doing DAS.
Yeah.
And I would help them. And
Okay.
so I would, and then eventually teamed up with Electrolink and another wireless company, and then now that Electrolink is full time in the DAS business,
Yes.
I've joined Electrolink.
Awesome. And how long have you been with Electrolink?
Officially with you,
Officially.
yeah, officially with you now for about 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And it looks like you guys are doing a lot of stuff just since
The
you've
business
joined.
is good. Yes,
Good.
there's a lot going on.
Good. Okay, so your job title is DAS sales. Can you kind of explain to me what that entails, kind of what your day-to-day looks like? Is it always changing?
Yes, and so the thing that is really driving the business today, well, let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
Uh, at the beginning of cellular,
Mm-hmm.
okay, uh, you would buy the product was strictly a send end.
Okay.
We called it. It was just for making calls.
Okay.
And so people would buy based on coverage that the carrier had.
Mm-hmm.
And they all had coverage maps, and all the advertising was our coverage is greater than their coverage.
Yeah.
And so that's what would sell the system. And for a phone, it was strictly
Okay.
a phone. Now it has evolved into a lifestyle instrument. As
Yeah.
you know, it's not just a phone; it's a GPS. It's you get more data. You're more interested in the apps and streaming data and so forth. It's evolved to that. The carriers have evolved along with the product, and several years ago, the carriers, AT&T led it. The carriers decided that they needed to cover areas that weren't covered, like football stadiums, convention centers, hotels, uh, buildings. You know, in those days, the carrier would say, if your phone doesn't work, go to a window. So, so excuse me. So the carriers actually paid for systems, and all the Super Bowl stadiums, all the football stadiums now have massive systems in there, and the carriers pay for them. And then the carriers started paying for systems in hospitals and hotels and convention centers and so forth. And so that evolved to the point where uh, the buildings and the enterprises that the carriers didn't pay for, they were left out.
Yeah.
And so they said for their employees and their customers, they have to put in a distributed antenna system to make the cell phones work. Now, what is really driving the business is public safety.
Yeah.
With the thing that happened on 9/11 in New York, all the first responders in that building could not communicate. Their radios didn't work.
Okay.
And it cost a lot of lives. And ever since then, fire marshals around the country and municipalities have been putting ordinances in that require new buildings to have the capability for the first responders' radios to work.
Yeah.
And that takes a distributed antenna system. So, and with all the new construction today, that is really driving the business. San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, all the major cities in Texas and mostly throughout the United States have an ordinance that says that any new building over 50,000 square feet must have a public safety DAS. Officially is called an emergency responder radio communication system. That is really driving the business today. We do a lot of public safety DAS.
Yeah. Is it also in old buildings as well that you guys are adding
No,
that in, or just new
the
builds?
ordinance is says any new building over
Okay.
50,000
So
square
just
feet.
new.
If an old building is remodeled or added to, then the ordinance will kick in. But there's so many old buildings that they couldn't do it. It wouldn't be fair to the building owners and so forth.
Yeah. Okay.
So that drives a lot of business. That keeps us, the public
Yeah.
safety business keeps us pretty busy.
Yeah. Wow. So then in your position, are you going out and finding people that were installing the DAS systems in, or kind of like what are you doing more specifically on a day to day?
Yeah, so I'm not the kind of guy that crawls around through the attic. Okay,
I would not want to do that.
I'm in sales, and
Mhm.
I'm the one that responds to questions from
Okay.
potential customers. A lot of times, the public safety part of it is a requirement,
Mhm.
and if a new building, usually it's a general contractor
Yeah.
that is tasked with providing that. So I'll meet with the general contractors, or if there's an RFP, I'll respond to the RFP. Together the proposal. It's
Okay.
it's a it's a complicated process.
Mhm.
You can't just say, and a lot of times a customer will say, okay, I want the cell phones in my building to work.
Yeah.
And my building is 300,000 square feet. How much will it cost me? Well, you
Mhm.
can't answer that.
Yeah.
Every building is different, and it takes a lot of research to go into establishing exactly what a distributed antenna system will cost. We
Yeah.
can give them a budgetary, and that's what we do. If a customer says, I need my cell phones to work in my building,
Mhm.
they'll tell us about the building, they'll give us the floor plans, and we'll put
Okay.
together a budgetary. It's pretty close.
Okay. Are you out? Do you kind of go walk the buildings also to get like
Yeah,
an idea?
yep. Uh,
Okay.
I'll go with the engineers and I'll meet the customer. I'll walk the office. We have to see what the interior is like, what the walls are like,
Okay.
exactly what the MDF closets are like, where we can put the system. We go up on the roof
Mhm.
to see,
Okay.
because sometimes we put an antenna on the roof, and we do all that.
Okay, so you've talked about the public safety DAS, kind of the importance of that and why it's so necessary.
Hmm.
And then you've touched a little bit on the cellular DAS. So can you kind of talk about, I guess, are those really the two main types of DAS, or are there any other kinds?
Yeah, there's other, excuse me, there's other kinds. So the public safety DAS, emergency responder
Hmm.
radio system, that's standard.
Okay.
The fire marshals dictate, the International Fire Code dictates
Okay.
exactly what that has to be and how it has to be and
Hmm.
how you put it in and how you measure it. The
Okay.
fire marshal certifies it. He looks at the design. He walks the building. So that's strictly regimented.
Okay. So then does he have to kind of sign off on that before
He
you guys can go in
totally
and
signs off
install?
on it. Yeah.
Okay.
So cellular DAS or cell phone DAS,
Hmm.
okay, there's two different kinds. There's an active and a passive. If it's a very, very large building,
Hmm.
let's say over 500,000 square feet, then
Oh,
it has to be an active DAS.
okay.
If it's a smaller building, we can put a passive DAS. The difference is a passive DAS is an off-air system. You put an antenna on the
Okay.
roof and you point it at the cell site that is generating the signal, whether it's
Hmm.
AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile, and it may be different cell sites.
Yeah.
You capture part of that signal, you bring it in to the head end, which
Hmm.
is the bidirectional amplifier, and
Okay.
then it's distributed throughout the building with antennas strategically placed in the ceiling.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a passive, and that's the easiest and the least expensive.
Okay. And when you
Very large buildings, you have to do an active DAS.
okay.
An active DAS involves coordinating with the carriers. It
Okay.
involves a contract with the carriers. It involves getting a base station from the carriers
Mhm.
and the signal is not captured from the public network. It is
Okay.
totally back and forth within the carrier's network operating center, and those are
Okay.
very expensive.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yes, and then there's different. There's outdoor DAS.
Mhm.
Uh, Campuses sometimes have their own system,
Okay.
and it can be a private system that's called an LTE private network
Okay.
or CBRS private network. This is the most advanced. Uh, There's campus DAS where you have a head in and you tie multiple buildings together with fiber.
Okay.
And you can build a whole. We've done that at several universities, put together a campus DAS.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all basically a DAS is a distributed antenna system that takes radio frequencies and distributes it throughout wherever you want, indoors, outdoors, and everything in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's something you can help businesses kind of figure out which one they need or would work best for their needs.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then nowadays, 5G is coming along. So 5G is really a public system for high speed capabilities.
Okay. So is it kind of different, or is it tie into all the stuff you just talked about?
The 5G is the carriers are putting in 5G.
Okay.
Okay, and they put them in heavily congested areas where there's a lot of people, outdoor malls and so forth. And they're on short poles. They're really just like a small cell. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And because they need more capacity, because everyone wants to stream high-speed data on their phones.
Yes.
They want to walk around and watch a movie, I guess. I don't know. And to do that, you need a lot of data capability. And that's what 5G is giving you.
Okay. Because you hear that term all the time, 5G, but you never really know what it is.
Yeah, I know. You do FaceTime or you watch the news or whatever, and it takes a lot lot of capabilities. The 5G doesn't have anything to do with voice. It's all data.
It's all data.
All data.
Okay. Okay. How has this industry specifically evolved over the years? Kind of the evolution of the wireless industry.
Yeah, and I've pretty much touched on that. It started with the send in, and the carriers were going, my coverage is better than their coverage. And then you had to roam, and you paid roaming fees. And then finally, it's pretty much the carriers have built out systems all throughout the whole country, along all the major highways. You see cell sites.
Yeah.
So the evolution was cell sites. Been putting in cell sites, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of cell sites to get the signal everywhere.
Yeah.
So now the evolution is more in the product.
Okay, so in the product itself.
Yeah, and in indoor, still all the indoor, the carriers don't want to lose any revenue. So if you walk in a building and your phone doesn't work, they don't like it. They're not getting any revenue from it. So they want coverage everywhere, indoor, outdoor. They want you to be able to use your phone for everything that the product will do, all the apps and all the data and so forth. And that is the evolution of the industry.
Yeah.
And in the future, there's still rural areas that don't have coverage.
Yeah.
So in the future, we're going to have satellite capability. Elon Musk is putting up satellites for cell service.
Yeah.
And so that's where the industry is going. So your phone eventually will work everywhere.
That's crazy.
Everywhere.
That's
you
crazy.
Go to the North Pole and make a call. And of course, the products keep becoming more and more sophisticated.
Yeah.
My phone right now can find my truck.
Same. I didn't even know. That wasn't even something I set up. But just one day, your car's parked here, and I'm like,
yeah, I know.
How does it know?
I know your phone knows. My phone will give me a history of where I was a month ago,
or suggestions if you go somewhere
regular.
I
know that's the evolution today. It's the product. iPhone and Apple and Android is more and more sophisticated products.
It's crazy.
But the carriers have to be able to have the signal capability to power them.
Yeah. So then the team is going in to install the DAS systems. Are they installing DAS that's capable for all the carriers most commonly?
Okay, so yes, let's say you own the building and you don't have much coverage in the building, maybe some. So, and you call me up and say, can you make my cell phones work in this building? I say, sure, I can give you a distributed antenna system. And one of my first questions is, do you want to broadcast a signal of all the carriers or just AT&T or just Verizon or T-Mobile, or do you want them all? The more you want, the more it costs.
Yeah.
So if you want to say, okay, all my customers, I'm a corporate customer of Verizon, and that's all we use is the Verizon phones in here, and that's the signal I want. Then that's what you get.
Okay, so just kind of
and it costs a little
depends.
less, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but if the carriers are paying for it, then of course they want to make sure their
Yeah.
phones work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So do you say it's more common for like more public spaces like stadiums or malls to have coverage for all the carriers?
Yes.
And then more smaller businesses or I
Yeah,
guess
smaller
businesses.
businesses that are privately held
Okay.
enterprise, they decide what they
Okay.
want, and because they have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Carriers will not pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. What are some of the most common buildings and places that were out installing DAS? I know you've kind of touched on stadiums and malls and things like that, but I guess what are some places that maybe people don't think about would need DAS?
Right. So now that the private companies and enterprises have to pay for their own, it's up to them. If they build a new building, uh, they will be very interested in having a distributed antenna system. If they add on to a building, anytime they add on and put up walls, it blocks RF.
Okay.
Okay, and so and nowadays schools, all the new schools, the next evolution probably is schools, because schools are required, new schools are required to have a public safety system,
Okay.
especially after everything that's going on with the shooters and all that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and that's dictated and mandated by the fire marshals and the municipalities. Probably in the very near future, besides the emergency responder radios, they're going to be required to have a cell system.
Okay.
Because the radios of the fire and the police may work, the two-way radios, but the cell phone won't work.
Okay.
And if you have kids locked in a closet or somewhere and their cell phones don't work, it's an added safety to have that ability for their cell phones to work, because everyone has cell phones nowadays.
Yeah.
And so that's probably coming.
Okay.
It's going to be a requirement. But any new building, new schools, all new schools, new hospitals, they all have to have a hospital, especially because it's not just the cell phones, it's the tablets, the crash cards, it's all the wireless systems in the hospital, the nurse calls, all that goes over a distributed antenna system. So anytime it's added to or a new one is built, that's our business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we kind of work on all kinds of different things.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome. You say we're doing more public safety DAS or more of the cellular DAS, like Electra Link itself, or is it kind of a 50-50?
Yeah. Probably more public safety.
More public safety.
There's a lot of new construction.
Okay.
And because of the ordinance, anything over 50,000 square feet. Now, the good news is that's really generating a lot of business. The bad news is that business is a long way away.
Yeah.
Because we get that business through an RFP. As soon as a general contractor gets awarded a contract to build a building, then part of the scope of what the general contractor has to do is the public safety system.
Okay.
Okay, but the building hadn't even started yet. So it's going to be a year down the road before the building is ready for the public safety system. Okay. So we get a lot of that. We bid them out, and we have a very, very long list of jobs that we've bid. We may be awarded them. We may not be awarded them, but construction is booming in Texas.
You see
Houston,
everywhere.
Austin, everywhere, and all that is new building now. So we get probably more public safety, but we still get a lot of cell. A lot of buildings still don't have the ability for the cell phones to work. Yeah. And they cannot get carrier funding, and so they'll come to us. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good that they're coming to us.
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay. What, in your opinion, sets Electralink's DAS team apart from other DAS providers?
A DAS is it's like getting when you have to get a new air conditioning unit for your house.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a major expense.
Yeah.
And it's something that's going to last a long time. So you don't just run out from any old guy on the street that has a truck that says, I do AC work, or AAABAC.
Yes.
You do your due diligence. You check them out. You You research how long they've been in business.
Mm-hmm.
You see what their reputation is. You check
Yeah.
references. You make sure that they're certified with the product that you need. If you're going to get a carrier, you don't want a guy that doesn't have a license to do carriers,
Yeah.
right? Same thing. And you want to look at the warranties. You want to know what kind of warranty you're gonna get
Okay.
with the system you're going to buy, and you want to know what kind of ongoing service is offered.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with your distributed antenna system or your air
Mm-hmm.
conditioner,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that they'll come out and service it if they offer that. So you do all that due diligence, and that separates. There's a lot of companies that haven't been in business very long, that
Mm-hmm.
don't have the certifications that they need, they don't have the experience. There's a lot of companies that will subcontract out.
Yeah.
Different. They say that they'll do it all, but they don't. They'll subcontract, and you never know what you're going to get. So,
Yeah.
a distributed antenna system is a very complex system. It's very expensive, and
Mm-hmm.
so you want to do your due diligence. You want to make sure that you're with a good, reputable company that's been in business a long time,
Yeah.
like Electra Link.
Yes. Which now we're doing the full service
Yes,
DAS work.
right.
For
For years and years, Electra Link has had cabling people trained. What, 38 years in the business?
Yeah, almost 40. Next year's 40.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and 9/10 of a distributed antenna system is cable. It takes
Okay.
wires to do wireless. Is what I like to say.
It takes wires to do wireless. I
Yeah,
like
and
it.
it's all in the walls and the ceiling, so you don't
Yeah.
see them, but they have to be installed. And they have to be installed correctly and properly. The technicians have to be certified.
Mm-hmm.
Certified on the cable, certified on the connectors. They have to be certified with how to do the connectors properly. Some of the, if it's a cell DAS and it's an active system, the carriers will test
Okay.
Yeah, they want to see the test of all the connections, because any hiccups in that radio frequency is disrupted.
Yeah.
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 So it takes a very technical company with a lot of experience
Mm-hmm.
and certification and
Expertise.
yeah, expertise.
Expertise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so when we're installing DAS systems, our team, if they ever have an issue with it, do they just call and our team comes out and checks or fixes it, or I guess do we provide maintenance
Yes.
service?
Yes. And in fact, the product comes with a warranty.
Okay.
Our installation comes with a warranty. If it's a very sophisticated system
Mm-hmm.
in a critical area like a hospital,
Yeah.
then the customer will purchase from us a maintenance and monitoring,
Okay.
contract for 2 years, 5 years, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We can remotely monitor a system and
Okay.
see how it's functioning. If there's a problem with the system, we'll get an alarm. We have
Okay.
a NOC, Network Operating Center, and
Mm-hmm.
we monitor systems.
Okay.
And based on the level of maintenance that you buy, we can be out there in a matter of hours.
Okay.
If it's a critical situation like a hospital, sometimes they want a guaranteed 4 hours response time,
Yeah.
or a day, or whatever. And yes, absolutely, we do that, and it's
Okay.
critical.
Awesome. And is that something that they can renew after, I guess, the amount of years that they had originally asked for is up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And if it's a public safety system, it's required to be inspected every year.
Okay. And that's something that our
That's
team would
something
do?
that we do. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, you kind of already answered this, but the last question I have for you is, what is the best piece of advice you would give someone looking to hire a DAS partner?
Same with your air conditioner guy.
Okay. Same with your AC
check
guy.
the references. Make sure they've been in business for a long time.
Yeah.
Make sure they have certifications for the product that they're going to install, and that they're a knowledgeable, reputable company.
Yeah.
Check references.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one thing that separates Electrolink from other integrators,
Mm-hmm.
someone that installs a DAS is called an integrator.
Okay.
And normally the integrator does nothing but distributed antenna systems. Electra Link does everything. Electra Link provides all the low voltage for the building, security, the AV system, as well as the distributed antenna system. I don't know of too many companies, if any, that do it all.
Yeah.
And that is the other advantage of Electra Link.
Yeah. And you're going to get the same quality across the board with all of those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Same crew and same group. And of course, if it's a new building and you need it completely wired and you use the Electra Link for the low voltage and the AV and the security and the DAS, all that's bundled together. We have the same installation crew. You get a discount.
Okay, good to know. I didn't even know that.
You get a deal.
That's awesome, especially with all the new builds going up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Sam, for joining the podcast today. I appreciate your time, and I hope our listeners enjoy hearing what you have to talk about with DAS.
Great. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Link podcast. We hope that you enjoyed hearing from Sam McDaniel about his experience with DAS and what Electra Link is doing within the DAS industry. This is the last episode of season 1 of the podcast. We hope that you enjoyed hearing from all the various guests that we had on throughout the season. We were so excited to create this podcast and just kind of share the heart of Electra Link with all of our listeners about what we're doing in the industry, about the people that are a part of our team, and so much more. Season 2 is going to be airing in October 2024. So later this year, we're going to be coming out with the second season. We're so excited to bring you guys some more great content. Again, thank you so much to our listeners for tuning in.